We discussed the concept of private also. Yes. Private variable, right? That's perfect. So, okay, so we have seen that I can declare any variable as a private by putting two underscores, but that is not completely private. I can still access the variable by object name underscore class name followed by double underscore and a variable name, right? Okay. So last time what we discussed that I declared a variable count equal to 0, and this is a static variable. That means I defined it outside all the function definition but inside class body. Okay. So Python provides a one more type of method, and that is called as a static methods. Now what is the use of static methods? So whenever you are manipulating any class variables, instead of writing that directly accessing the variable names, you can define a variable and you can restrict the access for that also. Okay, so how to define a static variable? So for that we have to define something called @static method. Okay, now this is a decorator. Now what is a decorator? So we will be discussing in a separate topic that how to define a decorator and how it works. Okay. So for now, I need to specify a decorator just one statement above function name. Okay. So here I'm writing one more function to increment this count variable. So definition increment count. Alright. Now for an instance method, we have seen the first parameter is self, that is object itself. But in case of a static method, the first parameter will be your class. Okay. So using which you have a reference to your class and you are referring to the class variable. So this count I can refer as, instead of directly saying employee.count, here I'll be saying class.count equals to class.count plus 1. Okay. So I don't want to increment directly the variable. Okay. So the good practice is I will define a static method. The purpose is, if you want to define any method for which you don't want to create an object, or across all the object this method should be available, then we can define it as a static method. So here, instead of now writing employee.count, I need to give a call to this particular method. So I'll be saying employee.increment count. Okay. So output will be exact same. It's just I defined one more method here to work on the count. Similarly, let's define one more method to get the count. I'll be writing @static method. On the next line.
Now, if we will not write static method.
So defaultly it will consider this is an instance method. Now yourself, it is not your, so as I said, it's not mandatory that you have to write a self here, right? So whatever you're writing, this class, it will consider as an instance.
When you're not passing in class, when you write
No, it's the same, right? So whenever we give a call to any method here, I'm saying increment salary, right? So still it's passing the objects. Similarly, whenever I give a call to static method, it will defaultly pass a reference for your class. Okay.
We always give class name dot.
Yeah, so it's the same. So I'm defining self here for an object. I'm defining class here for a reference of a class. Okay. So let's say get count. Again, here I need to write class, and what this method will do. So this method will just return me the class dot count value. Okay, so now going down here, I have this employee one object. Okay, here I'm printing the count. Instead of printing the count, I will just give a call to method get count, and here where I'm incrementing, oh, I'm not incrementing here. Get count, and I guess that's it. So if we execute this, let's see what we get. Employee or get count. My bad. I mixed two things. Alright. So this is something called class method. So you have to define a decorator as your class method. We have something else for your static method. Which kind of help I'm doing here? What's the help statement? Help of string. Okay, so this will give me the same output. That alright. Let's go here. So I'm creating one object and I'm fetching the value using get count variable now. So I'm not directly accessing that static variable using a method for this. Creating two more objects and then again giving a call to this get count method. Okay. In example, the class method which we have used so far. So we have used one method. Let's say this is for your dictionaries. Let's say I have a list and I want to create a dictionary from this. Which method I'll use? But that is for if I have two lists, then exactly. So what is the syntax of your from keys? You write dict dot from keys, right? Now what is your dict? So whenever we define a dictionary, if we check type of that, it will say class dictionary, right? So this is my class, this is the class method. Okay, so all the methods apart from this which we have discussed, that is d.pop we used. So we are defining a dictionary and from that dictionary we are popping. So what is this? So this is an object and I'm calling the instance method. Okay, so this is an example of your class method which we have used so far. Okay.
Both are from key pop.
No, so from key is a class method. Why? Because you're writing this class, right? So class name dot function name, right? But in case of this pop, so how you use? Let's
Pop we are
go back
using as
to
object.
this. Exactly. Let's discuss this. Hmm. Okay. Sure. So when you say s is equals to, right? Let's create a dictionary only. 1, 2, 4, 2, 9, right? It says when I say type of D, it says class dict, right? So internally what is happening? So I have this data, okay? So this is my class name and this is passing all these values to this particular dict function, and that's why this D is my object now of class dictionary. Okay, now all the methods which we have seen, that is D dot get, right?
These are classes.
So these are my object methods. Okay, so D dot get of 1. If I specify key, this will give me value, right? So this will return a value, so I'm printing this. Okay, so this is my object method, that I'm defining one dictionary. This is my object, and I'm invoking a get method for a particular object, right? The example of a from keys, let's say I have a list 10, 20, 30, 40. I want to define a, I want to create a dictionary from this. From say print, I say something like dict dot from keys.
So we are directly calling from the class.
Exactly. So we don't. So the reason, if you see, that you want to create a dictionary, right? Now for that object should be a dictionary, right? But here you do not have a dictionary. You have a list, right? So that's why to create a dictionary, you cannot create an empty dictionary. So you are actually creating a class so that. Okay. So this is my class. So because of this, I don't need now instance. I don't need a dictionary to give a call to this method. So it's a class, and this is a class method. Okay. Guys, hold on a second. See, so whenever I say a object method, that means there should be an object to invoke this method, right? So whatever methods which we have defined, that is get increment salary, I guess, or calc. Okay, so we discussed student example also.
You can also call instant method.
So this get details, increment, salary, all this need object to execute this, right? I cannot directly invoke this using a class. Okay, but the methods which I'm defining here with keyword class method, I don't need an object to invoke this. Okay, directly I can invoke this using a class name only. Okay. Now in Python we have, so in Java, if you see, this class methods are actually called as your static methods. In Python we have separate thing called static method. Okay. Now why we have a separate class method and a separate static method? So the main purpose is only to provide a clear separation between methods which are related to your objects, method which are related to your class, and method which are not manipulating your class variable or instance variable. Okay, so if you have some methods which are there, which are important to your class, but these methods are not actually modifying anything your instance or your class. Okay, so in example, let's say you want to add some logs into your entire code. Now you need functions which will write logs in your code, or let's say you're writing some algorithms to optimize the existing code. Let's say you want to implement a particular searching sorting methods. Now that method is not at all related to your employee class. Okay, but to get this so you to write your class, that methods you need it, right? So such methods which are completely independent, you will be defining them as a static method. Okay, now how to identify which one is static method, which one is a class method, and which one is instance method. Okay, so in case of your instance method, your first argument will be self, that is object itself. In case of your class method, your first argument will be class. But in case of a static method, there will be nothing. So it will be a normal method, and you can pass parameters, but there will be no extra parameter added by Python. Okay, so here if I'm passing two values for this, let's say num1 comma num2, so I don't need to write some extra parameters, something like self or class. It will be just two parameters. Okay, okay. So I'm just defining a normal print statement inside this method. So I'm not working on any instance variable, and I'm not working on any class variable here. Okay, so it's completely independent method. Okay, to give a call, I'll be using my class name. So I don't need an instance, as it's completely independent. I can directly give a call using your class name.
When calling, there is no difference. Right?
No,
Class.
calling it will be same as your class. Okay, so this will provide a better logical separation.
These calculators we can say are really used for better logical.
Yeah. Okay, so next thing which we will discuss is inheritance. Let's take example of student for now. Open this. Let's see. Okay. So last time we discussed this example that we created a class student. So we have one init method which take roll number, name and standard. Okay, we have a method for set marks. We have something for calculate result. So it will store a result either pass or fail. And we are creating just this 3 students, setting the marks and anything else. Yeah, so we tried printing all the students who are passed, right? Okay. Are you stating the standard also? So, for this example purpose, I'm removing the standard thing from here and I'll be creating a separate class for each standard, let's say. Okay. So what is inheritance? Any idea? Anyone? Okay. So what I want to do is I have a student class which in general it is storing a roll number and a name. Okay. For each standard I want to create a separate class. Okay. Sure. So inheritance is a property, so it will help me to reduce the total number of lines of code. It will, alright, let's discuss this using example only. So I'm saying class student 2. Okay. So what I'm saying that this is a student 2 class, okay, but the parent class for this is actually student. Okay. So I'm writing something like in bracket and the class name. Here I'm not writing anything, I'm just writing pass. Okay. Now let's try to create an object of this class student 2. Okay. So these are the 3 objects I have already created for this student. Now let's say let's start from S4 student 2 and here I'm passing again one comma. Okay. Okay, so I'm creating a new object with this class, but by default whenever we create an object it will give a call to init function for this particular class. Now if you go here, I'm not writing anything, so I'm just saying pass. There is no init method function defined here. All right, let's execute this. Okay, so it's not throwing me an error, it's still creating one object for me, and whenever I try to print the value, it's printing me the name and the roll number for it. Okay, so this is what your inheritance will do. So when I'm saying a new class, which is actually a child class of this particular parent class student, okay, so all the variables and all the methods which I have defined in this particular class, that is student, are already available for this child class. Okay, so the variables which we have defined, that is roll number, name, and the method that is set marks, calculate results, are already available for this class student 2. Okay, so if you want to see the same, So I'm going here, I'm just saying help of S4. Okay. So it will say that methods inherited from student class. First is your init method that is taking two values, that is roll number and a name. Then we have calculate result and a set marks method. Okay. So all these methods I have defined in the class student, and it's directly taking from that particular class. I don't have to define it again. Okay.
What is this methodization on?
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. So that's the most important part of inheritance. Okay. So the main purpose I created this class because I want to store a standard value for this also. So I'm creating this class for a standard 2. So I'll make sure that every time I pass a value 2. Okay. But now let's execute this. Okay. It is throwing an error. Why?
The init function is taking a look.
Exactly. So how it works, whenever you create an object, it will search for init method. Now in terms of inheritance, it will not search for the init method of this particular class only. It will first check here if init method is present or not. If not present, it will go to the parent class and it will search for this init method. And if init method exists, it will execute that particular method from this particular class. Okay. But now if you see, this method is taking two arguments, that is roll number and name. Okay. But while creating an object, now I'm passing three values, right? So now I'm passing this three values. So that is the reason this particular, the same init method cannot work. So in that case, I need to define my own init method. Okay. All right. So let's define the different init method here. I'll say diff underscore underscore init. First argument will be self, then I'm passing roll number, then name, and then standard. All right. So I need to do something like self dot roll number equals to roll number, then again self dot name is equals to nm, and I need to do self dot standard equals to standard, right? Okay, so I can write something like this, and I can define three instance variable for this particular class. Okay, but the main importance, the main use of inheritance is reduce total number of lines of code and try to make the maximum use of existing code. Okay, now you can see this, these two variables I have already defined here, right? Okay, so my init method is already taking these two values as a parameter. So which means all I need to do, I need to handle this standard only. Okay, and this part can be handled my existing init method also. Okay, so what I'll do, I will define a new variable standard here. Okay, but for these two values, I will just give a call to a method called super. Okay, now this super can be used to call a method of your parent class. Okay, so here either you can define directly the class name or super dot init. Okay, what should I write here? Which? All right. Okay. So keep in mind, whenever you pass values, you will never pass self here, right? You will never pass object here. Now this function call is exactly similar to the call which you are making outside this class. Okay. So whenever I will just pass roll number and name, and Python defaultly pass self as a first argument again. Okay, so you do not have to pass this separately. Okay.
Basically, we use super
Whenever you want to access any method of your parent class.
and if the same name class is already existing in class also.
Not necessary. Not necessary. Not necessary.
For example, if we will do multiple managers,
Exactly. Come to that. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. As for what's the thing? So now I execute this. So s4.standard. Uh, this will take all these values from the student to the standard value, but for this init, it will take values from here. Okay. All right.
For a method of parent class from child class.
Yeah. Yeah. Super.
So here in this case, it's not implicit call application.
No, it's not implicit. It's explicit call.
Using your
But still, we are actually doing inside a class, right? So as this comes under my encapsulation principle, so this is fine. But I should not do from this from outside. Mm, set marks we have calculated. So I have this set marks method here. Okay, I want to use the same method as it is, but in calculate result. So here what I'm doing that I'm making the sum of all total marks which I have divided by length, right? So we have one more method that best of 5 something for students, right? So they'll just consider sub marks for only top 5 subjects. So let's try to do this. So this method will be there, calculate results, same name, but I want to change the functionality. Okay. So I'm going here. Let's create 2 3 objects for this class. Chalo, s value is equals to alright, okay. So let's go ahead now. Let's do not print it. Only subjects. Let's take. Okay. Sure. So I use the same method, set marks. Now this will be obviously invoking from parent. So how it works? It will again go and check and the values in student 2. If it's not present, go up and execute a method from here, right? Now I have already have a calculate result method here, okay? But I don't want to use this. I want to change some functionality here, okay? So instead of actually doing the sum of self dot marks, I actually want to do sum of only top 5. Okay. So for now, I'm copying this entire method. Okay. Yeah. Can someone tell me how I can get top 5 marks? So I just want to ignore the lowest one.
You can do shorting and then after that we can take first one.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this is the list. Okay. I'm saying dot.
So
But this actually. Let's say first thing I'll do, let's sort it, as this will not return me anything. Self dot sort, what I'm writing, marks dot sort. Okay, this will sort it. Then I'm saying total is equals to sum of, anyone, what should I write? Self dot marks,
0 to 5, 0 to 4, 0 to 5.
it will be in ascending order, guys.
Okay. Minus
From 1 to last, will it do? So lowest will be the first element, right? So ignore that. Start from first to go till end.
But if you can list it, there are 7 elements.
generator.
This is just taking an example. There are 7 elements. If you will do one.
Okay.
Minus 1 to.
Alright, then that will be better. Okay, yeah. So according to that, what should I write? So if I sort it, then I need to start from -6, right? Chalo, then dot sort dot reverse. Okay,
And then we can take first break.
and let's go till 0 to 5, but this will give me 0 to अच्छा चलो ठीक है. Okay, and here I will just write total divided by 5, right? Divided by length of oh
Let me directly write 5 instead of lens and dot marks. Total.
that we can do, or let's do this. Oh, not self dot marks, right? So I'm taking it in total. Alright, so this should do, right? So if I get this and length of this, okay. So I have a list of values. Oh, and by mistake we only have 5 elements here. Chalo. Okay, so I have a list of marks which contains 6 elements, out of which I want to ignore the lowest marks and I just want to consider top 5 subject marks. Okay, so that's why I sorted this. Then I use this reverse function, and from that I'm picking first 5 elements. And if I do this, will it work? Yeah. Self dot marks dot 5 elements. I guess it will be same, right? Let's write 5 for now. Okay. So let's hope this is fine, and based on that, I will be storing the results. Okay. So set marks I have defined, and calculate results. So S4 dot calculate result, S5 dot calculate result, and let's say S6 dot calculate result. Okay, so after this we need to print for everyone. So, I'm not writing loop for this for now, but let's say dot. I guess this is the variable, right? I guess everybody should pass. That's what government is trying to do. So, what went wrong? Calculate result attribute none type has no of. Oh, the problem is where's the method? When I'm saying marks dot sort dot reverse, I'm expecting whatever may be the output I will get from this method. I need to reverse it, right? But the sort method will return me none, and that is the reason I need to write it as self dot marks dot reverse separately. Okay, so everybody pass. Let's try someone. Okay, looks like this is working. So what we have done, that I have same method which is defined in a parent class also, and same method which is defined in a child class also. Method name is same, but the implementation is different. Okay, and this is called as your method overriding. Okay, same method but different implementation. Okay, in Python, method overloading is not possible, but you can do method overriding. Okay, I guess we discussed why we cannot do overloading, right? No? Right. Okay, any guess? Yeah, exactly. Chalo. So what is overloading? When I say overloading, two functions will have same name, right? But the difference will be either in a data type. So this will be an integer and this will be integer, but this will be, let's say, one integer, one string, right? So different data type, or another variation maybe, so it takes 3 arguments and this takes 2 arguments, right? Now in Python you will never specify the integer and this is integer and this is integer, right? So if you write any method, let's say get, for the same method you can pass this also, you can pass this also, okay, and you can pass string also, right? So you can accept any kind of value because there is no restriction here on what kind of value you are accepting, okay. So as we do not have any concept of defining the data type, a single method can work. And in the case that different number of parameters, that we can handle using your star args, right? So variable number of parameters I can easily accept using star args, and all the parameters will be sent as a data type. So it will be a tuple, and if I pass, so this will be dictionary, okay. So that is the reason in Python method over riding is supported, method overloading is not there, okay, but you can achieve the same.
And what it is for like calling the intelligent functions, like generators.
So these are magic methods. Magic methods. All the methods which start with this double underscores are called as magic methods. Okay. Now let's come back to the popular problem, that is diamond problem, which occurs with your multiple inheritance. Right. So this is the reason Java will not support directly the multiple inheritance. It will do with your interfaces, right? So what is multiple inheritance? I have two classes, class A and class B, and I have a third class, class C. Okay, so this class is actually inheriting the methods from class A and class B both. Okay, so if you want to define so if you want to specify that this class can inherit properties from multiple classes, all you have to do is specify the class name here. Okay, so just for this I am writing a demo class, so let's say class test. Okay, for now I'm not writing anything. Let's see if we need something, we'll write it there. So how to define a multiple inheritance or any type of inheritance? So let's say I want this particular class to inherit properties from multiple classes. Now that I just need to specify this class name separated by comma and multiple class names here. Okay, let's try with this. So I'm copying pasting the same method, that is set marks here, right? Okay, so any changes what we can do here, let's add one more argument here. that it takes two things, that is roll number and the marks. Okay, just to make it a bit different. Self dot roll number equals to, okay. Now here I'm saying that this is a student class and this is this test. Okay, now I have this set marks method common, right? Now if you see, this set marks is in this class also and in this class also. So how Python will resolve this thing? Okay, and it will resolve it using your method resolution order. Okay, so what is method resolution order? Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so method resolution order, so Python will search all the methods in this particular order. Okay, first thing, so it will start from student 2, that is the actual class, then it's student class, and then test class.
Because
Okay,
you wrote student comma test.
yes. So how it works, so for this Python uses depth first left to right approach. Okay, so the class which is at bottom will be searched first, then left, and then right. Okay,
So I think we class at the bottom because this child class.
yeah, exactly. So at the bottom this is student 2, then if you go up, if there are two classes, it will always select the left one first and then the right one. Okay, so this will give you the clear idea that okay, in which order I need to execute the method and I need to search the method, right? So
What is the third or fourth one? The object is
so it's a built-in beta.
built-in object.
Yeah, yeah, correct. So I'm creating objects here. Where's the set marks? So let's say remove this calculate result for now. So for the set marks, okay, we can say this is directly taking it from method. So it looks like it's directly taking from class 1, right? I said I can pass a roll number to this second parameter. Okay. This is throwing me an error. Why? Okay. So it's saying three arguments. Three argument because your first argument will be self. Okay, this is second and this is third, right? So how it works, that ideally it will go in the same order, that it will search for the student 2, method not present, go with student, right? Now it will find the method here, right? Set marks. Now as here set marks, okay. So here I'm passing only one argument, right? As there is method here, so it will start executing this method directly, okay, because this comes in the order first, right? And as I do not have a separate argument, it will throw me an error. Okay, so that is the reason we are getting a error there.
Is there an option, even if we know that method order is there, can we still?
Let's try this. I'm not too sure, but let's try this. Okay, so what I'll do in a student class. But how we can do this? What's the method name? Set marks, right? Definition dot set marks. Let's say first argument is self. This is saying, let's say, marks, and this is my roll number. Okay. Okay. So the thing which we can do is, if I have two arguments and I need to pass one argument to one method and a second argument to second method, that is possible. But I don't think I can, because of that method resolution order, I can invoke the another method. So if I try this is possible. So I'm keeping roll number here only. And for this set marks, I'm taking two arguments. Now what's the class name? It's student dot set marks. And for this method, I'm passing the marks. And this is test dot set marks. I will pass it. Set marks, student dot set marks. Missing one required positional argument, marks. Okay. Sure. So I'm giving a call with two parameters. Are we calling it before? All right. So it's throwing an error here only. So I'm saying give a call to this self. So this is taken as a self, I guess. Let's try this self. Yeah, so this will work. Okay. So in a test thing, what I'm doing. Okay. Let's see the output. So set marks. I'm setting the marks here for this. So if I print s4 dot, I guess marks is the variable name, right? And s4 dot roll number. Okay. So this will work, but I cannot specify directly two separate function calls. Defaultly, it will take the first one only. Okay. So here what I have done, I have defined one more method, but in that method, now here I cannot use directly super. So if I use super here, I'm again going into the same problem that when I say super, which one exactly to select, then again it will start following the method resolution order and it will execute the method from student class. So this will work, and for this will throw an error. So that's why explicitly I'm specifying which class to use for this particular set marks. Okay. All right. One interesting point. So we have seen I can define a variable with double underscore, right? So that I can restrict the access outside the class, right? Now in Java we have something called protected, right? So that I can give access in a child class. Okay. In Python we do not have anything called protected. Okay. So the protected which we have here is by convention. So we have seen that even if I put double underscore, I can still access the variable name outside the class. Similarly, by convention, it is accepted that I will put the underscore just to make sure that I can access this variable in instance variable. Okay, but there is no much difference defining public variable and the underscore variable. Okay, so how we can get this? So what I'm doing, in which object I modified this student, right? Okay, so forget about this student2 class for now. Okay, so if I print s1 dot underscore underscore let underscore underscore, okay, you can see it's showing as underscore roll number. Okay, so that's why here if I go and if I try to access this as s1 dot roll number, it will throw me an error. Reason, it is not stored as under roll number, it is actually stored as underscore roll number. So if I use this, it will allow me to access. Okay, but this is actually same as, so I'm just putting underscore here, so it looks exactly the same as if I remove this underscore also, it will be normal underscore, otherwise it will just put an underscore here. So this is accepted by convention that we will be putting underscore to define it as a protected, but the moment I put it private, okay, so the representation changes. Okay, so to make it public, you will directly write a roll number so that you can directly access outside the class also. If you want to make it a private, you can use double underscore. And if you want to define it as a protected, then you can use underscore. Okay. So whenever you're using in a child class while accessing, you will directly use this underscore roll number. But outside the class, you will never give access to this double underscore or a single underscore variable. Okay, so this is by convention. So this is not a standard syntax, or this will not a restriction put by Python.
No, instead of underscore, we can use any symbol.
Anything, yeah. It's not making any difference. It's just you are defining a variable name, but it's just that I cannot define any other special character here. So while defining a variable, so as per the rules which we have to define a variable, my variable should be all lowercase, then it should start with it cannot start with, okay, then underscore is the only special character allowed. Okay, if you want to define some constants, you can go with all caps. Okay, so it will not throw an error, but this convention is used only when you want to define something which the value is constants. Okay, all right. So this is your object-oriented programming. So whenever we say object-oriented programming, every language should provide principles like encapsulation. What is encapsulation? That whatever details about the structure about your program should be hidden, okay, and it should have proper structure. So encapsulation is generally achieved using your defining a structure using your class. Okay, then what else? We have data hiding and abstraction. So abstraction is something whenever your class is defined, outside the class, the only thing which is visible is methods, right? So the methods which we have discussed in case of a string and the dictionaries, so we directly use method names. So we didn't care about how this is implemented internally. So this is an example of your abstraction that internally it's implemented, but you do not have to worry much about how it is implemented. For your data hiding, so we have this double underscore to make it private so that it will restrict the access, and we have something underscore that is protected. Again, this is by convention. And lastly, we have something called public. Inheritance we have discussed. Then we have something called polymorphism. Okay, so polymorphism means a single method can have multiple forms, and this is an example of generally your method overloading and overriding. Okay, so in Python your method overloading is not supported, but we have discussed how to override a method. Okay, so this is possible.
Not one thing. We have shown that using super keyword we can call init function of the parent class. Right? So now there are two parent class.
So that's what I said, right? I cannot. So even here in this case, if I use super here, right, I'm actually not solving any problem. So what I did, I defined a separate method. Oh, where's that class? Okay. So as there was a conflict, so I created a separate method, and where I defined this method.
Yeah.
So the student dot set marks and something like this here, student 2. Yeah, okay. So here instead of, so here I'm directly specifying the class name, right? Now if I define a super, so if I say super, it will again go in order of your method resolution order, and you'll again get the same error. Okay. So here that's the reason I explicitly specified that you, in this case, you have to execute this set marks method for this particular class only. Okay, I can specify super, no problem, but I will create a problem myself. Okay, so using super, it's not mandatory that you can only call your init methods. Okay, you can call any other method also. Okay, so it's not a restriction. Okay. Any queries?
Here we don't have dynamic binding
Everything is dynamic.
because use one use concept is there.
Yeah, so super. So dynamic binding, so in Python it's not limited, so it's not for your objects only. Everything is completely dynamic here. Okay. So Karthik, so what I'm defining here, that what is the use of the super keywords? Okay. Now I have this class student which has two arguments, that is roll number and the name. Okay, but here this class. Sorry. Here I'm taking three values, that is roll number, name, and standard. Okay. Now I can write it in a normal way, that I can define it as a self dot roll number is equals to roll number. Okay. Plus I can write it as self dot name is equals to name. That means I can define three different variables again for this particular class. Okay. But the advantage your inheritance will provide, that is you can make use of existing methods. Okay, now I observed that, okay, so there is an init method for this particular class student which is already taking this two arguments, that is roll number and a name. Okay, so I can make use of the same thing. So as this is a method of the parent class. Okay, now if you want to give a call to any parent class method, so you have to write a super function. Okay, and the method of parent class which you want to call. Okay, and the parameters which you want to pass here. Okay, So you have a roll number and a name which is input for your init method of this parent class, and standard is something which is different. Okay, so you can go up, you can check this. Okay, so for this init method takes two argument, that is roll number and a name, and this is setting these two values. Okay, so I'm giving a call to init method, so that's why I don't have to write these two statements. Defaultly when it comes to this init method, it will give a call to init method of parent class. So what is super? So defaultly it will take a parent class and it will give a call to this init method. Okay, it will execute, it will save these two values, then come back and then execute this last standard statement. Okay, Karthik, clear? All right, perfect. Okay, so this is your object-oriented programming in Python. Now topic-wise things which are remaining. Mm, 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 mm. It also decorators. What else? Threading, socket programming, and database access. Okay, right. So for you, your generators and generator expression would be there. Uh-huh.
Is it possible to show a list of class objects?
Yes, yes. In earlier example, we did this actually. Okay.
Then this loop.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did is employment.get count, employment salary, get details, test value. I guess we did it in a student example only. Yeah, here. So I defined this three objects, S1, S2, S3. Okay, I use this set marks method on that. Okay, so I have these three objects now. I'm defining a list. I'm adding these three objects so that I can iterate over it each time. And now while iterating, I'll get one object at a time. Okay, and for that object, now I'm giving the calculate results method. Okay, so in list you can store anything.
To the employee.
Directly printing. Yeah. That's it. Okay. All right. So next time XML JSON. Beautiful. So next time we'll finish these two things, XML JSON and beautiful soup. Okay, and then we'll move forward. So most probably next week will be the last. Okay, so in next week we will finish these four topics, and tomorrow we'll finish this two. Okay. Yep. So we'll stop here for today. Okay. Thank you guys.